Like and subscribe might be a simple click for you, but it will lead to a transformational change of our channel. Support us to achieve 5 million subscribers by year 2028. For your convenience, we have added 35 languages in subtitles. Go to Settings, click Subtitles and select desired language. In 1944, somewhere in the South Pacific, Lieutenant Hank Marlowe parachutes onto an island after his plane crashes. Another soldier, Gunpei Ikari, also lands there. Marlowe aims his gun at Ikari and shoots, but misses. Ikari then pulls out his gun and pursues Marlowe. They both run into the forest and start fighting near a cliff. Ikari almost stabs Marlowe with his sword, but Marlowe manages to deflect it. Ikari gets Marlowe down on the ground and nearly kills him, but suddenly, a huge ape hand appears. Both men then see the giant ape emerging above them. In 1973, in Washington, D.C., government official Bill Randa and geologist Houston Brooks come to meet Senator Willis. They seek funding for an expedition to a newly found place named Skull Island. Initially, Willis isn't interested, but Randa persuades him. Before they leave, Randa requests a military escort from Willis. On their final day before heading home, the Sky Devil Squadron, led by Colonel Preston Packard, gathers together. The squadron comprises Captain Earl Cole, Slivko, Relis, Glenn Mills, and Jack Chapman, who serves as Packard's main support. When Packard gets the call for the expedition, he eagerly agrees to take on the mission. Randa and Brooks visit a bar where they meet James Conrad, a former British Special Air Service captain, whom they recruit as their tracker. Conrad faces off with two bar patrons who accuse him of cheating in a game of pool, but he quickly handles the situation. Randa is instantly impressed and tells Brooks they've discovered their guide. Conrad joins Randa and Brooks to discuss their plan. Upon hearing their offer, he insists on more money and highlights the high risk of the trip due to severe weather and dangerous creatures. Meanwhile, in a darkroom, anti-war photographer Mason Weaver is developing photos she captured during the Vietnam conflict. She receives a call to join the expedition and arrives at the base to meet Packard, his team, and a group of scientists from Landsat, including Brooks' colleague San Lin, along with Landsat employees Victor Nieves and Steve. Weaver is hesitant about the mission and suspects ulterior motives from the military. Brooks briefs everyone on the mission objectives and what they aim to discover on Skull Island. The team sets sail into the ocean before boarding helicopters bound for the island. They encounter stormy clouds that create hurricane-like conditions, but they manage to locate a safer route within a high-pressure pocket. Despite a rough journey through the storm, the helicopters navigate the area. While Weaver takes photos, the soldiers begin dropping seismic charges into the ground, causing explosions. Suddenly, a tree is hurled through one of the helicopters, causing it to crash. The team then spots Kong looming over them. He dispatches another tree through a helicopter before grabbing more and smashing them into the ground. As they crash, the surviving team members become separated. As flames engulf the wreckage of the helicopters, Packard gazes up at Kong while the giant ape looks down at him. Packard confronts Randa, pointing a gun at him, demanding the truth behind their mission. Randa confesses that he's been aware of monsters like Kong for some time and that he's seeking evidence for his organization, Monarch. Conrad, Weaver, Brooks, Lynn, Slivko, and Nieves stick together, while Randa, Packard, Mills, Cole, and other soldiers head out to find Chapman, who has a significant amount of ammunition that Packard plans to use against Kong. While the soldiers trek through a bamboo forest, one of them abruptly halts as a bamboo tree pierces through his mouth. Above them, a colossal spider begins its assault. Mills gets ensnared in the webbing and the soldiers swiftly start severing its legs. Mills manages to free himself, and Packard shoots the spider, killing it. Meanwhile, Chapman is alone near a river, observing Kong wading through the water to nurse a wound inflicted by gunfire from the helicopters. Kong quenches his thirst from the river and encounters a colossal octopus. Engaging in a fierce battle, he wrestles with its tentacles before devouring it. Kong then hauls away the octopus carcass. Meanwhile, Conrad's group finds themselves cornered by a tribe of natives. As they attempt to fend off the attack, an older Marlowe emerges from the tribe. Marlowe assures both groups that they pose no threat to each other and extends an invitation for the group to pass beyond the wall. He shares that he's been on the island for the past 28 years, gaining insights into the natives and the island itself. Kong is revered as a deity by the natives because he has been safeguarding them from subterranean creatures known as skull crawlers. These creatures have been a menace to both the natives and Kong's own kin for centuries. Marlowe explains that the skull crawlers remained underground until the seismic charges explosions disturbed them. He warns that if anything were to happen to Kong, the skull crawlers would overrun the island. Marlowe also hints that the skull crawlers currently on the surface are merely juveniles, indicating the existence of a much larger one. Meanwhile, Chapman remains isolated as he strolls through the forest and settles on a log. The log unexpectedly reveals itself to be a massive insect. Chapman fires at it, but the creature shows no aggression. However, as the creature departs, Chapman is ambushed and killed by a skull crawler. Meanwhile, Weaver encounters a large water buffalo trapped beneath a down chopper. She attempts to lift the wreckage to free the buffalo, but Kong suddenly appears and effortlessly removes the chopper. Kong briefly gazes at Weaver before departing. She seems more impressed by him than frightened. Conrad informs Marlowe of their intention to reach their rendezvous point on the north side of the island within 3 days for rescue. Marlowe disagrees, stating that it's impossible to reach the point on foot in 3 days. Reluctantly, he agrees to guide them on the correct path. Marlowe bids farewell to the natives and leads the crew onto a boat. Shortly after they set off, Nieves is grabbed by carnivorous birds and torn apart in midair. Marlowe guides the group into the Forbidden Zone, an area where Kong's ancestors once battled the skull crawlers. Among the vast field lie the enormous remains of Kong's family. A skull crawler emerges, prompting the group to seek cover. It spits out Chapman's skull and dog tags, catching Conrad's attention. Randa, while taking pictures, is suddenly seized and devoured by a skull crawler. Another creature arrives and begins attacking, using its tongue to snatch victims. The groups persist in their struggle against the skull crawlers and a swarm of carnivorous birds. Marlowe retrieves Ikari's sword and skillfully slashes through numerous birds before passing it to Conrad. Weaver dispatches one of the creatures by tossing a lighter into a fume-producing hole, igniting it and setting the creature ablaze. Following the battle, they gather together once more. Packard remains determined to find Chapman. Conrad presents Chapman's dog tags to confirm his death, yet Packard persists in searching for Chapman's ammunition stash, driven by a desire for revenge against Kong for his men's deaths, despite objections from Marlowe, Conrad, and Weaver. That night, Packard gathers explosives and sets a trap for Kong. Meanwhile, Conrad and Weaver come face to face with Kong, but Weaver approaches him cautiously. She gently touches his face, and he responds with gentleness. However, Packard baits Kong towards him and ignites the fuel along the water, causing Kong's fur to singe and burn. In the chaos, Kong accidentally steps on Steve and fatally injures another man before collapsing himself. Packard prepares to detonate explosives, but Conrad and Weaver intervene, urging him to reconsider. They persuade the other soldiers that Kong is crucial for keeping the skull crawlers at bay. The soldiers side with Conrad and Weaver, opposing Packard, who remains resolute. Suddenly, the largest skull crawler emerges from the ground, prompting the group to flee. Packard stays behind to detonate the explosives, but Kong smashes him beneath his fist. The survivors make their way to the shore as the primary skull crawler gives chase. Cole decides to sacrifice himself, strapping explosive devices to his body. However, the monster tail whips Cole into a wall, causing him to explode regardless. The skull crawler advances toward the group until Kong reappears and crashes into the beast. Weaver grabs a flare gun and strikes the skull crawler in the face with it. Kong seizes the skull crawler and flings it into a wall, inadvertently knocking Weaver into the river. Kong utilizes a ship's propeller attached to a length of anchor chain to injure the beast, eventually slashing its throat. Despite the wounds, the creature persists and launches another assault. Kong rescues Weaver and continues battling the skull crawler. He thrusts his fist down the monster's throat and removes its innards. Kong then sets Weaver down beside Conrad before departing. Shortly after, the survivors board the boat, and 3 helicopters arrive to retrieve them. In the distance, Kong stands vigilant, maintaining his watch to safeguard his territory. He pounds his fist and lets out a mighty roar. As the credits roll, video footage shows Marlowe returning home to Chicago. He reunites with his wife and meets his adult son for the first time. Marlowe then settles in to enjoy a Cubs game with a hot dog and a beer. After the credits, Conrad and Weaver find themselves in an interrogation room under the scrutiny of Monarch. Brooks and Lynn enter the room, revealing to them that Kong wasn't the sole monster in existence and that humanity hasn't always ruled this world. Brooks produces files, including a map of Tokyo, and then proceeds to present a slideshow. The slides depict another expedition discovering cave drawings of various monsters, including Mothra, King Ghidorah, Rodan, and Godzilla himself. The presentation concludes with the resounding roars of both Kong and Godzilla combined.
Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button so that you will not miss any of our video updates.